Okay, so we've now booted into the system, which should now have Zen installed, and it should be running it in the background. So if I use the Excel tool stack, we should be able to find out if it worked with a DMESG. And it looks like it did. If you get this printout here, then you are successful. If you get anything else, then it could be an error, then it probably didn't work. But this is a successfully compiled and installed Zen system. So our next step is actually going to be to modify the network. Network configuration is going to have to be modified so that we can set it up for Zen virtual machines. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to append onto this ZenBR0. Now you remember the tool we installed earlier called Bridge Utils. We're going to switch from ETH0 inet to manual instead of from DHCP. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a bridge called ZenBR0. And we're going to have that be DHCP, and we're going to bridge it to ETH0. Now, this change, in order to get it to take effect, may have to do a computer restart. We'll see in a minute. Looks like we didn't. Good. Alright, so we're still up and running. So, we've restarted the network after adding a virtual bridge, which will allow us to connect virtual machines to the same connection. Later on, I'll be going over a more complex configuration of that. For now, we're just going to leave it with that simple version of that. Later on, we'll be setting up pfSense, which will have internal and external, or WAN and LAN, for connections. So we'll be using both ETH0 and ETH1 and two different bridges. One will be set to manual for both ends. One will be set to DHCP, or actually probably static. So. Next, as many are aware, security comes at the cost of usability. I hate having to type sudo xl and enter a password every time I try to run something from the virtual machine, because technically this is a secure enough system that I shouldn't have to worry about that. Nobody but me is going to be accessing it, so I'm going to sacrifice a bit of security for my my own convenience. So I'm going to do sudo vi ets sudoers, and I'm going to add to the end of this passwordless Zen access. To do that, %sudo, so only people who are in the sudo group can run this. Alright, and to save sudoers, we have to use the exclamation point because that is a force right quit. And next, I'm going to modify bash.bashrc, and I'm going to add an alias. So every time I type in XL, it'll actually be running sudo XL, which means that every operation will be run as sudo, and no operation will require a password for XL commands. There we go. For that to take effect, we'll have to log back out and log back in, so I won't go over that just yet. But at this point, we have successfully installed, configured, compiled, installed, and configured Zen. So, give yourself a pat on the back if you've been following along this far. That's pretty much all the hard parts. So, next, I'll be covering how to set up a Windows virtual machine and using SDL.